Hi guys, welcome to Monday, March the 15th. Today we're going to be talking about food chains and food webs. You learned this in elementary school as well as reviewed it again in 6th grade. So we're going to be adding just more information to what you already know. So let's go ahead and go through the slides, not very long, and most of it should sound familiar to you. Get this Chamu going here. There he is. Alrighty. So, just some reminders that welcome back. Last week of the third marking period, and that no late work is being accepted. Now, Ms. Sylvia Rodriguez wrote that on hers, but actually I will take late work through tomorrow. Alrighty? And then that's it, because I got to stop sometime. Okay? So you can work on late work today and tomorrow, and then turn that into me. And, you know, everything is time-stamped, date-stamped. So that's what I'm going to go by. So please get it in. Some of those things that some of y'all are missing are just a couple of questions, even the labs, a couple of questions that you have to answer. So let's go ahead and look at our new TEAC. It says the state of Texas wants you to know that interactions occur between matter and energy. So matter is, you know, stuff you can touch, feel, you know, you can feel the chair under you or the bed or my desk. This is matter. Okay, and energy, that's something different from matter. Diagram the flow of energy through the living systems. So they want you to know that interactions happen between matter and energy. They want you to be able to diagram, to draw the flow of energy through living systems. That includes food chains, and then they become food webs. And then you have to apply to something we call an energy pyramid. It's just another way of looking at food webs, okay? And you'll discover what all of that is. So here's kind of the short version of the TEAC, okay? Diagram the flow of energy through living systems. So right here, this is you diagramming the flow of energy through living systems, showing us food chains, food webs, and the energy pyramid. Okay? It's nothing more than that. Okay, so let's review food chains. So again, I know that in elementary you reviewed or you first learned about food chains. But this is probably something you kind of figured out even as a little kid, that, you know, something gets eaten by something else for its energy. It all starts with the plants, the producers, okay? This is what makes the world go round. If we had no plants, there would be nothing else on our planet, okay? This is what produces the glucose. The grasshopper eats the plant. It takes in the glucose that the plant produced for itself, and that gives it energy. Then the bird eats the grasshopper, and he gets energy. The bird gets eaten by the snake, and the snake gets energy from eating his body. And the snake can be eaten by the owl, who gets energy from having eaten the owl. All right? And each of these steps has a different name, we'll learn. You're always going to have a producer, which is a plant. Everybody else is considered consumers. So to consume means to eat, okay? This guy produces, he makes his own food. Everybody else has to eat somebody else to get energy, whether they're eating plants or whether they're eating animals. They still have to eat something else, another organism. Like the bird may eat seeds and grasshoppers. Well, the seeds come from wheat. That's an organism as well. Don't forget that. Plants are organisms. So we can see the chain, the connection. This one is linked to this one, is linked to this one, is linked to that one, and so forth. So we call that a food chain. Okay? So a food chain describes how different organisms eat each other, starting out with a plant and ending with an animal. So if we go back to our diagram here, we always start out with a plant. We could have just put this plant and the grasshopper. That's a food chain. Okay? Here we have added more consumers than just the primary consumer. But this would be a food chain. Just the plant ends with an animal. Plant ends with an animal. Oops. Right there. So here would be a typical little food chain. Here's our producer, our plant, gets eaten by an animal, and that animal can be eaten by another animal. So notice in between there that there are arrows, and it says the arrows on a food chain or a food web represent the flow of energy. So it represents the moving of energy from one organism to another. The direction of the arrow in a food chain or web is extremely important. The arrows always show the direction of energy as it's being transferred from one organism to another. So when the deer eats the grass, the energy, let's say it ate this patch of grass, is going to go to the deer. And now the deer is going to use the glucose to make it be able to run or make it be able to grow antlers. At some point, maybe in his life, he's going to have the unfortunate luck that he gets eaten by the wolf. But the wolf, when he eats this deer, that meat that is in the deer that was made with the glucose that came from here is going to give him energy to be able to continue to do the things wolves do and live his best wolfy life. Okay, so the arrows show us the direction that the energy is going. You will never have, well, I say never with a little asterisk mark, have arrow pointing at the grass, except a decomposer. Okay, when stuff decomposes, then that makes up nutrients for the plants in our whole planet. So the arrows show the movement of energy from one organism to another. One thing I do want to point out is that on lots of the questions on the previous STAR test, you're going to see they may ask you about a food web, a food chain. They don't always include the sun, but I want you to know that ultimately all energy comes from the sun. If the sun died, our planet would die, because it's what gives energy to the grass. It's what gives energy to every plant on our planet that the herbivores and the omnivores eat. Okay? So all energy starts with the sun. But you may not see it on the STAR question. You just have to assume there's grass, there must have been sunlight that gave it energy. So the sun gives energy to the producers, okay, the plants. Then when the mouse eats the leaf, it gives energy flows to him, just as energy. And again, the energy I'm talking about here is in the form of glucose. It's a chemical energy. We started with radiant energy. It becomes chemical energy in plants. And then that's what's passed on to the animals that eat the plants. And so you can see from step to step, again, the arrows are the movement of energy. And ultimately, in every food chain, you are going to have the top predator. Okay, this is the guy who rules over everybody else. And what we're going to notice is there's going to be less top predators than there are like these primary consumers. Because if we had 1,000 owls and only 10 mice, well, those 1,000 owls are going to starve to death. So instead, we have 1,000 mice and just one owl that's able to sustain itself because there's plenty of food. Okay, so here's a much longer food chain, and look at that vicious looking shark there. So it starts down here, and I wish I could get rid of that thing. It starts down here, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of this thing down here because it blocks my my slide. But it starts with a plant. So it's all food, and hold on, I'm going to escape out of this slide, and I am going to move it over. There we go. So it's not in the way. So I can show you this whole food web. Oh, hold on. I had this cute little starfish, but he's in the way. Let's put him over here. Okay, technical difficulties. Alrighty, so everything begins with producers. When you think producers, just think of the word plant. Producers, plant. They produce the glucose. They make the glucose that everybody else is going to eat. Okay, so these are plants. Always start with the plants, and then when you see this arrow, it shows their energy, its energies, is going to these critters. These critters are alive because everybody eat that, and now they become food for the next step. And then they become food for the next step, and so on and so forth. Okay? So these are called producers. Then we have consumers, which you're familiar with already. They consume, they eat to survive. They don't produce their own food, they eat to survive. These are called the primary consumers. They are the first level of organism to eat directly from the plants. So here we have some kind of zooplankton and small little shrimp and stuff. They're the first ones who eat the plants. But this could have just been a plant and a bear. It doesn't have to be you have a whole line of all these critters, because bears do eat plants like berries and stuff. So in this example, the primary consumer, the first guys that eat the plants are these small little zooplankton. Then they get eaten by the secondary consumers. They're second in line after the primary to get the energy. Then tertiary means 3. They're third in line. Quaternary means 4th. Now, this could go on a little further, but it just depends on the environment that you're in and what are the organisms that live there. Okay, so some advantages, disadvantages of food webs on our planet is, of looking at them like this, that they show the specific feeding relationships. They help us identify, we can look at this and identify who's who. Oh, these are the primary guys, these are the secondary guys. It's a good way to see it visually. The disadvantage of this is that it only tells one story. We're only looking at this chain, when that's not how nature works, okay? It doesn't show us everything else that's in the ecosystem. Oops, not yet. It doesn't show us, we know these aren't the only critters that live in the ocean. And it leaves out other important species. And again, everything else that lives in the ocean. So it's good to help us visualize, okay, this is a food chain, and we can see the movement of the energy through the arrows, but it's a very limited tool as far as the reality of what exists on our planet. Okay, any questions? If you do, it's probably best if you just email them to me, and I'll be glad to answer, or just speak up while you're working on the work, okay? So your responsibilities for today are to, and I'll put this into the electronic notebook, what's going to be in the notes, the title page, the food chain notes, And then there's a graded discussion, and there's a food chain assignment for you to complete today. So let me jump into that just in case anybody has any questions or there's any confusion. I can head that off. So let's go ahead and open it. So you're going to have just one graded discussion question. Looks like most of you have already worked on that for you to answer. Yep. Thank you very much. And then the other part is this food chain assignment. Hold on, I need my glasses. Alrighty, so you are going to be answering, there's 4 questions for you to answer, and this is just practicing food chains, which you already know. And that is it, guys. That's all I have for today. And let me stop my share. All right. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, come on back so I can help you. And please take a look at TAC and check to see what you are missing. All righty? All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.